At one time, the entire land surface of Ireland would have been covered with trees. A great, rich, dense forest, so that a squirrel could travel all the way from Dunseverick to Dingle without setting foot in the ground. Man wasn't long making an impact. The first people would have lived in the forest as hunters and gatherers. But then in the New Stone Age, people arrived with the idea of farming, which meant trees cleared for fields. It's hard to believe that much of that great forest was cleared by people using nothing more sophisticated than stone axes. By historical times, most of the landscape was treeless, but there were exceptions. Here on the banks of the Bann was the great forest of Glen Concain, stretching from the Sperrin Mountains to the shores of Lough Neagh, from the slopes of Slieve Gallion to the banks of the Bann. Glen Concain must have been a wild place, a hiding place for outlaws for many centuries, and a place to retreat to for the clans when things weren't going well in the wars between themselves and against the English. The English commander, Marshal Bagenal, described it as the last refuge of the Ulster rebel. At the time of the plantation, a new attitude was brought to bear on the forest. A business attitude. The forest was now something to be exploited. Captain Thomas Phillips from Coleraine was given the lease of a stretch of land 2 miles wide by 5 miles long along the bank of the river. 50,000 oak trees, 100,000 ash trees, 5,000 elm. The forest must have been a busy place. The sound of axes, horses dragging logs to the river, and the river itself, a mass of logs floating all the way down to the port at Coleraine. But no thought was given to management, no thought to replanting. Within 50 years, the great forest of Glen Concain was gone. It would be nearly 400 years before there was a timber industry in the Bann Valley again. Today we're here in Port Glenone Forest, which is perhaps the closest thing we have to a remnant of the great wild wood. The forest here was completely felled in the 20th century, but the ground still held the plants and fungi and invertebrates which link it back to the great forest. The forest today is carefully managed by the Forestry Service to allow it to return to as natural a state as possible.